exciting. I'm so excited to hear all what you guys have to say. Mana, it was so nice to see you again. It's been a while, so I can't wait to hear about the new job now. All right, so I'm gonna pull up the questions. All right, so just to get us all started, I think we're gonna begin just by going through all the panelists and introducing ourselves. So I'm just gonna go ahead and introduce myself first. My name is Lemma. I actually went to App Academy, graduated in September, and now I'm working for App Academy, excuse me. And that's a little bit about me. Now I'm going to pass the mic over to you if you would like to introduce yourself, and then pass the mic over to another panelist.
Okay. Me, right? Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Mana. I work for Red Hat. They're a big Linux open source company. I work as an associate software engineer on the ecosystem experience engineering team. But I'll pass it off to Kristen. Hi, Kristen.
Hi, Mana. So cool to see all my former students. My name's Kristen Chauncey. I was actually a student in the March 2020 cohort and became a TA. And now I'm actually an instruction manager here at App Academy for the part-time program, and I'm also the assistant to our associate director, Maggie Chauncey. I will pass it to, let's see, is Isla here?
I don't think just yet. I think Janice, we can pass it over to Janice.
Okay, Janice then.
Hello, everyone. My name is Janice, a champion among many champions. Everyone in this meeting is a champion, and I'm proud to say I'm part of the admissions team here and excited about tonight's event.
Awesome, thank you. So I guess we'll go over any other panelists' introductions as they trickle on in, but I'm gonna go right in because I'm super excited to hear what you guys have to say. So I'm gonna go ahead and hop right into the questions. So I do want to, right before we go into asking you guys questions, I would love to hear about what your career looked like before you entered the realm of App Academy, this beautiful place. I'd love to hear a little backstory. Mana, if you want to just talk about a little bit about what your career looked like before you decided to take the leap and go into App Academy and change careers.
Yeah, definitely. So I made a total career change. I was actually going into school for English. I was actually doing my English degree all the way up until I started App Academy. So that April, the month of April, I was like still going to school too. So that was crazy. But I was an English teacher in Korea for 6 months before App Academy. And so I realized that I didn't really want to be a teacher anymore. And so I switched over to, I was researching like programs for software engineering, and App Academy came up. And so that's kind of how I came into App Academy. So, yeah.
Okay, awesome. And Kristen, before you became my dream of an instructor, where did you end? Where were you?
I was actually a public school special education teacher and teacher of the visually impaired for about 10, 11 years before I also decided I didn't want to be a teacher anymore in that space. And then came to App Academy as a student. I wanted to do software development and fell in love with it. And apparently I really am supposed to be a teacher and in education because I have now completely fallen in love with working for App Academy, and I'm now pursuing my master's degree in higher education administration now because of this. So super excited and love it. And I still get to answer lots of cool technical questions. So
Awesome, that's super exciting, Kristen. Happy for you. And Janice, the admissions team, they are a dream of their own. Can you tell me a little bit about what your career was like before you hopped into the admissions team with App Academy?
Sure. Yes. Pretty similar to the other panelists. I also was an educator before coming to App Academy. I was an assistant teacher for New York City Department of Education for over 15 years, and I also have a bachelor's in psychology. So it's great to be able to transition those skills into this particular position because App Academy is so rewarding and it has so many different attributes to offer not only females that want to embark on the tech industry, but also any individual who has the opportunity and chance to change careers.
Well said, well said. Yeah, I recently started working with App Academy right after graduating. Actually, I was working part-time with them and then absolutely fell in love with the team, fell in love with my boss, Heather, and I felt the need to stay. So it is really nice to hear that you guys enjoy working for App Academy just as much. But I would love to hop right into our questions. So okay, so let's go in and I would love to hear a little bit. Mana, I'm going to ask you this question. So a lot of people have this idea, and I know I even personally had this idea that you have to start coding like really early. If you don't really have an education in coding already, you know, it's not the type of career you can just hop into and just learn because it has the stereotype of being very difficult and impossible. So was it true for you, and how did you discover coding?
I actually first took my coding class in high school. It was a HTML and CSS class. When you go into App Academy, you'll figure out that that's not an actual programming language, but that's my first exposure to actually like doing computer stuff. And so, but actually App Academy, like before App Academy, and other than that course I took in high school, I had no experience in coding. So App Academy really does like prep you like beforehand, even before admission and everything, like telling you to look at their websites, and you can do like their free courses and take a look at that. And that they've been that's been pretty thorough and like really informative. But other than that, I had like, no experience at all. Yeah.
Yeah, Janice, I think you could speak on this in terms of admissions. I know the first thing admissions did for me was suggest that I go look at the App Academy Open, which was a really good depiction of like how App Academy's like learning structure was like. So it was a nice pre-intro, which really interested me as well. But it actually looks like Isla, another panelist, is here. So why don't we go through a little introduction with you? So we did just all kind of introduce ourselves. And I did forget to ask you guys if you can mention where you're actually located. I'd love to know where on this earth you are planted right now. So if you just want to go introduce yourself, you know, your current city, and what is your current role right now?
Yes, thanks, Lemma. So my name is Isla and I'm from San Diego. My current role is a software engineering apprentice here at App Academy. And so I'm doing technical interviews for job seekers. And I also went through the App Academy program and I graduated last year of 2021.
Okay, awesome. And where are you located?
In San Diego.
San Diego. Okay, cool. Janice, how about you? Where are you?
I am currently in Maryland, so I'm pretty new to the area, but it's my home, so it's cool.
Love that. And Kristen?
I am right north of Austin, Texas, in a little town called Pflugerville.
Love me, Austin. I need to come back. And Mana, where are you located?
I'm in Minnesota.
Minnesota. Okay, cool. So we got a little bit of everyone, a little bit everywhere. I am currently in New Jersey right now, right over the JW Bridge. Been here my whole life, so this is home. But all right, Isla, while I have you here, I just asked Mana a little bit about her experience with coding prior to App Academy. So can you give us a little bit of info about you? Like, how experienced were you before App Academy? A lot of people have this idea that you have to be experienced in order to, you know, start coding. And yeah, I just wanted to hear about your experience. Like, what was it like for you coming into App Academy? Did you already have experience?
Yeah, for sure. So actually I got started a little bit later than most people. I entered the program at 30. But before that, I did play around with HTML and CSS. I did write my first lines of code probably around 17. And then I used just like website creation apps like Wix and WordPress to create my own websites, as well as design apps. So it was always of interest to me, and that's why I decided to further my education. But really, it can be done at any age. And so I really advocate for that, because a lot of people feel like if they haven't done it by 21 or 25 that they can't do it, but it's, you know, anything can be learned.
Definitely, totally agree. There was, I think, every single age group in my cohort. All right, so to go right in, I'd love to hear a little bit about, Kristen, what would you give? I know you've been in the tech realm for a little bit and you know the gist of it. So I'd love to hear, like, what would you, what advice would you give women who are in the tech industry?
I think one of the biggest things that I would encourage women to do, or anyone who is not, you know, does not identify as a cisgender heterosexual male. I think that's kind of the big, you know, picture there. But I would encourage you all to understand that you are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to have a voice. You are allowed to be here. You have earned it just as much as anyone else has when they get here. Exactly, Heather, you belong. And things won't change and things won't get better unless we kind of force our way through. We break the glass ceiling and we show up and we let people hear us and see what we can do. And if we don't show up, then it's easier to not be considered. And I think women have a tendency to let imposter syndrome take over a little bit more sometimes, that maybe I'm not where I should be. Maybe I'm starting too late. Like Ayla, I started when I was 38 years old, and I was like, I've had this full career and maybe I've done this I've waited too long. And once you decide I'm going to have that confidence and I'm going to be in this role and I'm going to give it my 100%, then people will start believing it too. But you have to believe it first. If you don't believe it, no one else is going to take it seriously. Lim, I think you're muted.
Thank you. No, I was just completely agreeing with you. You couldn't have said that any better. That was that one hit home. And I will also mention, I am going to be asking the panelists like random questions from all the questions on the plan for today. But if you do feel like you have something to add to one of the questions that have been asked to someone else, totally feel free to raise your hand. This is more of a discussion. Don't feel like you can't raise your hand and also put in your 2 cents. I'd love to hear anything that you guys really do want to say. But you did mention something super important, Kristen, which I think I'll bring into our next question, which is something I think everyone probably suffered with at one point in their life, which was imposter syndrome. I know I personally struggled with that deeply when I was in App Academy, after App Academy, before App Academy. So I'm going to ask Manal, because I do feel like we actually had a conversation about this at some point during our cohort experience. But well, first let me ask you, did you deal with imposter syndrome? And if you did, how did you deal with it?
Yeah, I think I had this conversation like every other day, like either with cohort mates or like with my family. I'm like, what am I doing? But I definitely struggled with it. But one thing that really helped was definitely my community and like having people around you that validate you too. Like, hey, it's okay not to know that you're not, like, it's okay not to know, but it's not okay to settle with not knowing, but to keep persevering and keep pushing forward and like to keep finding answers. I think that's really what makes our job. Like, we're so good at like finding answers. Like, even if we don't know, we're constantly searching on Google or like doing whatever we can to like kind of figure it out. And so I think that's one thing that really helps combat imposter syndrome, as long as like you don't give up. And as long as you have like that support of other people too, like just cheering you on. I feel like that was really my like strong support.
And just for anyone who's a little unsure about what imposter syndrome is, basically it really is just doubting yourself. Like that, like the best form of doubting yourself there could be is imposter syndrome, where you just don't give yourself enough credit for all the progress you're making with whatever you're doing. And it's definitely something that learning a new skill and coding specifically is what I experienced imposter syndrome with. Is you gotta give yourself some credit. Isla, did you experience any imposter syndrome yourself?
Definitely. There would be periods where I felt very confident, but then other periods where it was just simply very hard. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like I don't belong here. Or, why did I take this on? But for me, it was really just working through that and just kind of reminding myself that I'm, fighting a whole battle. Like it's like a lot of battles, not just one battle. And so maybe one day I lose, but the next day I'm going to get back up and I'm going to try it again. And just reminding myself that I do belong, and that also we're bringing representation to a less represented group, and like there's service in that, and I just feel really called to be in this field right now, and to share my ideas. And I feel like it's actually been very well received. I feel like the industry is definitely turning a page and people are being more inclusive. They're seeing the value in diversity. And I do feel really respected among my peers. So it's been a positive experience so far.
I hope that so far is forever. All right, so Janice, I'm gonna ask you a question for any of our people here that are also, interested in applying to App Academy, have any interest in App Academy that aren't quite there yet. So can you give anyone out there any advice on how, what advice do you have for students who are trying to get into App Academy rather?
Yeah, that's a great question, Lemma. I would have to honestly say, make sure that your goals align with what App Academy has to offer. It is a commitment and it's not going to get any easier. The easiest part of this journey is actually taking on the task of knowing what's ahead of you. So once you actually get into gear, you do have to remind yourself constantly, like, why am I doing this? So constantly reflecting on your why is very important because it does keep you on task, but it also gives you an opportunity to reassess yourself when you're going through the times when you're not so sure about yourself or not so sure if the program is fit for you.
That is my favorite W. That's my W that I'll always ask. Why? Why am I here? What do I like? Always ask yourself why. And I think that's a really good point you bring up, Janice. Thank you so much for that. So Mana, I have been wondering about this new job ever since we graduated. I wanted to ask you, this is a specific question, and it may not pertain to you because you may not be in this environment, but the typical talk of the tech industry being very male dominated is something that is a very common topic. And maybe you do work for a company where you find yourself that isn't so male dominated. So I will let you speak on this. But what is it like being a woman in a male dominated field?
I guess it's hard to kind of separate because this is, I guess, my first like big girl job, I guess. I don't know. But I feel like for my particular company at Red Hat, there is definitely like a lot more male workers in my team, like we have like 3 girls and then like 16 boys. And so it's like a big difference. But I feel like for me personally, I feel like my team has been really encouraging and have been willing to like more like very helpful, I guess, like especially because like I honestly don't know much about like my tech stack. They've been really like a lot of the boys have been or the men, I keep saying boys, but a lot of the men have been reaching out like intentionally to like see if I need help and stuff like that. And I think that's really helpful because because I feel as a new software engineer, I feel more timid going out and out of my way to ask questions. And I usually just ask the other 2 girls or women in my group. And so I guess I feel like, sorry, my dog's barking. I feel like they've been very intentional in telling me to ask them for help. And I feel like that's really encouraging to me because if they didn't initially like reach out, then I don't think I would have like spoken to them or like been able to just check up on or like have them ask them any questions. And we also have like these like coffee hours where we get together and I'm able to like get to know them personally as my coworker too, because we are remote. And so I guess that also kind of breaks the like, I guess, the gender bias thing because I get to speak to them as also a minority, and they get to know me as a minority and as a woman. And so I feel like that's been pretty helpful. And it, especially my manager too. He's a male person, or he's a male, and he's been very encouraging, very encouraging, and been very like helpful in guiding me and seeing where I want to go as well. And we recently just had like a female, one of my coworkers that was initially in our team, she got promoted into a new team as a manager. And so that was like really like eye-opening, like, yay, like there's more women going into leadership positions in this company. And so I really admire that and like that. You're muted again.
I'm just going to keep it unmuted. I was just saying that's great. That sounds like you're in a very great environment, and that makes me really happy. Unfortunately, I do hear some stories, but more so about the intimidation. I personally have experienced being in an environment, not within the tech industry, but it is intimidating being a woman surrounded by, a completely male-dominated field. I know my last field was very male dominated. I was in the sports industry, so I was very much a single female, always by myself in a pool of men. So it definitely was something that is intimidating. So it is nice to know that there are environments that aren't as intimidating, that make you feel welcomed as a woman, especially in a place of work. You want that, you need that. So that's really nice to hear, Manat. I'm going to pass this over to Kristen. So Kristen, do you have anything to add in terms of what it's like to be a woman in the tech field, especially as an instructor? I mean, you are a woman of leadership. You are instructing all sorts of people from all walks of life in terms of the tech realm. So what is that like for you?
It's definitely it was a different experience coming from education, which, public education, especially in special education, tends to be a very female dominated field. And I think that plays on some stereotypes, but also just, the nature of some of the aspects of the job. But then coming into this space and then being an instructor, when I started as a TA, I was one of 2 or 3, I think, female TAs in the entire group. And then when I became a mod instructor, I was the lead instructor for mod 2, which is the data structures and algorithms module that you'll be doing for about a year. And until about halfway in, I was the only female mod instructor. We had some more TAs, but even by and large, our instruction department is made up of mostly males. But it was kind of empowering because I got to be, I was this powerful, knowledgeable woman in this role that was able to lead students. And I think I was able to use my gifts in that area where I was able to bring my compassion, be able to kind of pull on my life experiences. And I was actually able to coach some of my male counterparts in the same way. Well, thank you. I loved y'all. But I was able to kind of work with some of my male counterparts and also teach them how to not just look at the code. And if you were ever one of my students, one of my big things was walk away from the code, and there is more to life than the code. And I think that I was able to kind of bring that to the table. And now we have another amazing female instructor. She's our mod 6, which is our Python module. And Leia is amazing, and you'll meet her when you come through the program, and she's phenomenal. But right now she's back to being the only female lead again. And, it's going to ebb and flow. But we also have this amazing team where Maggie is our leader in instruction. And she is, this wonderful, powerful woman. And then we've got people like Heather and Janice and Lemma. And we've got Meredith, who's one of our VPs. We've got women in places of power in this company, which is really cool to get to be in this space where we feel more respected. And I will tell you, at one point, that was not the case at App Academy. And now it is. And it's really cool to have seen that progression where now not only do we have a seat at the table, we have a respected seat at the table. And I think that's a big thing when you see a shift from it being, we're just allowed in the room, we're allowed to sit at the table, and now I can speak at the table. And again, you just take your space and you take your voice and you move forward.
That's great. I really love the transparency. You were in App Academy longer than I have. So my only understanding of App Academy is for what it is now. So it is nice to see, like how, because I do already see how much work App Academy actually puts towards this. So it is nice to see that, it wasn't always the case, but hey, it's evolving, it's changing. There is work being put in place. So that is great to hear. All right, so let's hear a little bit. Isla, I would like to ask you in terms of the program itself. So when you got to the program and, I know that we all found our balance at some point. So I know it might differ depending on what point of the program we're speaking of, but typically like in the program, like how much time were you putting in? How many hours were you putting in outside of, the hours that we are already in class from the typical 9 to 5?
Outside of class, it was usually at least 2 hours, but sometimes 4 or 5 hours. So I would say my daily hour amount was 10 to 14 hours. But maybe I'm a little bit different. I did not come from a tech background, so I really had to take my time to absorb the material and try it out myself. But I did notice that during the project weeks, this is much more heavy. But generally, you're going to need to do 10 hours a day between class time and studying to really take it seriously and move to the next level. But once you get in that flow, that really helps everything. And I would just suggest studying with friends. Always make friends. That keeps you motivated and it gives you the moral support. And also sometimes, you can really elevate your knowledge, and people are always in Slack. They're sharing ideas. Maybe one student gets one part of the homework and then you get the other one. So coming together and elevating your understanding, it really helps you to get through each week.
110%. I know we all know this coming out of the cohort, but even the cohort I was in, I know the first thing we all did was we did have like a Discord where everyone in our cohort had been added to, but we also just made our own for just the women. We just wanted a safe place that we could also be. So I know the first thing our cohort did was we had a separate one just for the women where, we can just talk about things and feel safe, where, everything we were saying, is amongst us. And it was honestly really needed at the time, because I will say that my cohort was very male dominated. I think I was one of the original, maybe 10 females within the cohort. And that's just a rough estimate. I'm not exactly sure, just off the top of my head. But yeah, it was nice to know that there was a place for us to all be. Manaa, how many hours were you putting in? I was putting roughly about, the same as Isla. Anything different for you?
Yeah, it was about the same. Yeah, I just remember pulling a few all-nighters for projects though. But other than that, yeah, usually like 10 to 14 hours a day, just trying to make sure I get that homework or get that understanding as much as I can to prep for the next day. But yeah.
Okay, and I do want to ask this of all of you, because I do feel like this is important to speak about no matter what your role is. So I would love to hear about what the most rewarding part of your role is currently. And I'll just quickly say my current role is the technical selection specialist. And I do feel the most rewarding part is being able to talk to people who were exactly where I was, math. How many months ago was that? In April last year. But it definitely is something rewarding to be able to see people in my shoes and be able to talk to them, give them advice, mentor them. That is definitely something that I find very rewarding out of this job. But I'm going to pass the mic over to Janice. What is the most rewarding part of your job in your role right now?
Yeah, so as an admissions specialist, I would honestly have to say that the most rewarding part of being on the admissions team is actually being part of the motivation behind the students, starting from the application and continuing on to be some type of empowerment for them, because a lot of times, students don't they don't know what to expect. So it's good to be able to offer them the assistance that they need, but also the encouragement that they need, because people are definitely balancing other aspects of life and going through different stages of life. So being a part of that motivating force is definitely truly rewarding to me.
Great, thank you so much, Janice. And I'm gonna pass the mic over to Kristen. I know if you could say anything about this, I think the most rewarding thing of your job, I'll answer for you real quick, is you changed my life in App Academy. Definitely. I don't know if I luckily got you as my instructor right around the toughest point at App Academy for me. So it really, I think I expressed this to you during App Academy. I'm gonna express it now. You made such an impact on not just me. I think anyone who had you as an instructor, you really touched. But that's my answer for you, but I'm gonna let you answer this.
Honestly, and I appreciate that completely. The best part is being able to work with students, and the best part is being able to see people's lives changed and telling people that they can do this even when they doubt themselves, and coming to people who don't think they can do this is probably the coolest thing that I ever got to do, is get to work with people and show them that they were capable. And it wasn't me making no, y'all were amazing. It wasn't me making you a good programmer. It was showing you were a good programmer already, and showing you were capable of everything that you wanted to do, and getting you out of your own way sometimes. That was my biggest thing. But that's the thing I'm proudest of, is being able to work with so many students and get y'all to the point where you could see who you were.
Well, mission accomplished.
Good.
And Mana, your current role at Red Hat, what is the most rewarding part of it now? I think you're over the onboarding process now, right?
Yeah, I'm about 6 months in.
You're a big girl now. Okay, so what is the most rewarding part for you?
I think the most rewarding part for me is definitely my team. I'm super grateful for the team that I have, that I was put into, and thankful for my manager, because they've been super supportive and super encouraging, and I don't feel the pressure of the new job and having to know everything. So I enjoy talking to my coworkers every day, and doing the peer programming, or a debugging session, or just doing a quick huddle because I have a question about a code piece or something. But I really, I think I know that I really like my team. They've been a blessing. But yeah.
Sometimes it's not even about the work, it's just about the people around you and how good your team is. So that is great. And Isla, I'm going to ask you as well, what is the most rewarding part about your role now?
I would say just helping students follow a non-traditional education path and to land their jobs in this path, basically. It also helped to inspire students for the entrance interviews and help make more women feel comfortable entering the field, and to be an example for women that are looking to get into it, and also just an example in general that women can do it just as well as men, and that our perspectives are valuable and needed in this industry. So I would just say, just seeing people land those jobs and get the practice in that they need, that's rewarding for me.
Definitely. And I know I've had this experience of females coming into interviews at App Academy and just being surprised that, there's another woman interviewing them. So it is nice. And I know, Isla, you probably experienced this too, but just being a woman on interview, conducting an interview for another woman who's coming into the tech field or trying to get into the tech field. I know that has comforted a lot of women that I've dealt with interviewing who are coming to App Academy. So it's really nice to be able to have that impact to other women and, just let them know hey, I'm here, you can do it too. So it's really awesome. All right. So this is a question in terms of looking for a job in the tech field. And this can go for everyone here. Janice, I know you personally, you probably weren't actually looking for work in the tech field, but rather also helping people find jobs in the tech field. but I would like to go through this with, let's start with Isla again, because I know you're currently right now in like hands deep in looking for work and hands deep looking for jobs right now. So what advice that you've probably been giving yourself could you give other people in terms of looking for work?
Say to stay really organized with your time and treat your job search like it's a job in itself. Always put your best foot forward, always communicate quickly and often. And even if you don't match every single qualification listed, but you match maybe like 75% of them, still apply anyway. I think that a lot of women don't apply as often if they don't think that they match every step of their qualification list. But it still is beneficial just to send it out there, and you'd be surprised, you still get a lot of callbacks. So just being confident and always working on your portfolios, making sure that they're up to date. And image is a lot of things in this industry, and just in general, everything's digital. So just having all of your social profiles up in a professional way, it really helps you to stand out. So I would just say doing a mixture of all those things and then studying your data structures and algorithms.
Gotta love them. Gotta love those data structures and algorithms. But you said something that will probably stick with me for a bit. But treating your job search like a job of itself, that is definitely very well said, because it is a job of its own and it's a tormenting one. So it's definitely one that you're working for yourself at that point. So that's really well said, Isla. I like that. Manat, what advice would you give people looking for work in the tech field?
I'd say, I guess my way to my job was a bit different, because what I did was I did the LinkedIn direct messages. So that's how I got through to my current manager. I'd say really be honest in what you're looking for, and really communicate that to the company as well, and whoever you're interviewing or whoever is interviewing you. I feel like if you're financially like can do that, I guess, like really be because I feel like during the interview process, it's like your time to interview the company as well. And I feel like finding the right team is really important, because if you like the work you do, but you don't like the team, then it makes it really hard for you to do the work that you like to do, right? And so I feel like for me, I was really fortunate in finding a team that I was able to be really open and honest with. Like during my panel interview, I was like literally like, I don't know how to do this, but I'm willing to like learn. Like, can you guys explain this to me? And like I was really honest at like in my point of like my software engineering journey. Like I was really honest in telling them like, this is like, I'm looking for a mentor, and like if you guys are willing to mentor me, I'm sure that I can like grow with your company, and I can be an asset to you guys, because I'm hungry to learn, and I'm hungry to grow more in my career. And if you guys are willing to invest in me, then I'm giving it my all for you guys as well. And so that was kind of what I was doing when I was looking for jobs. I was really like trying to look for a good manager, a good team that I would like as well. But that's one thing that I would encourage you to do during your job search. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, you brought up a very important point. Like it is, I know like in the job search, it is very tormenting, and, you know, we all want a job, right? So a lot of people just settle, but it is important. You are also interviewing them, you know, you don't want to just settle. You want to make sure that you're finding the right fit for you, which is really, really important. And I think especially as a woman, you want to think about these things during your interviews. Like, is this an environment I would feel good in? Like, do I feel like as a woman as well, like, could I strive here, you know? So it is really important to also be interviewing the interviewer. So that is a great point you bring up, Manat. Kristen and Janice, do you have any things you want to add in terms of finding a job within the tech field? Any advice you'd give students, or anything that you've maybe learned yourself through your experiences?
I would honestly piggyback on a little bit of what Isla said, is take the job requirements as suggestions, apply for everything. Just be like, that's nice. And now you have a list. Now let me tell you why I can do this. One of the things we tell you, if you have not gone through the program yet, is that once you learn one language, it becomes easier to learn another. And a lot of times, if you know JavaScript and Python, and maybe you didn't learn Ruby because you did it online, whereas our in-person programs teach Ruby, but the tech stack you're applying for uses Ruby. Guess what? You learned how to learn a programming language, and you tell them, look, I can do this. Give me 2 weeks and I'll learn Ruby. Give me 2 weeks and I'll learn Angular. Give me whatever it is that they need you to do. Just take those job requirements as suggestions. And if it says senior, go for it. Try it. See what happens. The worst they can do is tell you no. The best that can happen is you get the job, or you have that valuable interviewing experience. You've gone through the process of applying. You've gotten some of those, initial heebie-jeebies out when you're going to meet with these panels and do your technical interviews. The more practice you get, the more it becomes like, I can do this. I've done this before. You learn how to ask those questions. You learn how to navigate that space. And so don't ever let anything, location, salary, job description, whatever. If you think you can do it, tell them why you can do it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You can try again in the next one.
That's the key. We just keep trying, don't get discouraged. And I know this was already a topic before. I think Isla and Kristen both spoke upon this, but confidence, just have that confidence and it will take you everywhere, especially as a woman. Just to be confident and feel powerful in any field you're in is very vital. But speaking of job search, I would like to shine some light on the support that you guys actually got in terms of your experience with App Academy's job search support. So both Isla and Manaz is more targeted towards you guys, but in the job search, like what support were you guys getting in terms of finding a job?
Like it's been really comprehensive. You're given a career coach, and so they survey all of your materials, your website, your resume, and all of your social sites, and then they give you personalized suggestions. And they're basically requirements almost of what you need to change. And then you have a weekly quota of jobs that you're applying to, and you're really kept on track with this. So it's to make sure that you have enough offers to compare with. And on top of that, there's hiring info sessions with hiring partners. So a lot of companies partner with App Academy, and maybe Facebook is hiring our graduates, or Chase. So there's a lot of opportunities there. And then I would say that the lectures are really helpful too, to drop in for prepping for Google interviews, or maybe just pair boarding. So I really feel like there's a really unparalleled amount of support in the job search. What do you think, Mana?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like one of the main reasons I came to App Academy too is because of the coaching that would come after graduation. Like, don't worry, they don't leave you in the dust after you graduate. It's fine. They give you a coach and everything. And like, they're definitely super helpful in like reviewing your documents, and like any question, any time of day, I'd like message Allie. I'd be like, Allie, what does this mean? Like, what are they asking me? Like, is this the offer? Like, am I not supposed to give a number now? Or like, what is going on? But they're really there for you. And like, you have your team and like other coaches there too that can answer your questions. And so, yeah, definitely don't worry. They're just there to keep you accountable. Cause like you're not doing the, like, it's not like every day that you meet now. It's like, you're on your own, but like, you're still there, and like, they're there for you. They're there to keep you accountable and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it's the coaching process. The coaching part is, and like the job search is definitely very helpful and very informative and very, very good.
Thank you so much, guys. All right, so I do want to, this was a question that I think was relevant to you, Mana, in terms of, we spoke a little bit about like the sense of being in an environment that's male dominated in the tech field, and how others have, made you feel welcomed in that kind of field. So I know, and I experienced this as well. And I think you mentioned this, like in terms of having the people around you that you work with make you feel welcomed, in terms of asking if you're okay, like asking you if you need help, making you feel like you can come to them for questions. Is there anything specifically that any of you have experienced that makes you feel more welcomed in these types of environment that people have done?
For me, I feel like it's like the weekly check-ins from just like different coworkers. I guess they'll just be like, "Hey, how's your day going? Like, what are you working on? Like, do you need help?" It's just like those, I guess spontaneous, like, "Hey, I'm thinking like about you," just those moments where like sometimes you're like just like, "What am I doing?" And then someone's just like, "Hey, how are you doing? Like, do you need help?" And I'm like, "Yes." Like, thank you for reaching out to me because I do need help. And I was too scared to ask, but thank you. And so it's just those, like, yeah, just random check-ins or like just in any time of like other people just welcoming you or like asking you if you want to like shadow with them so that they can take you under their wing and like so you can kind of learn more. Because every like stand up, I'm all like, if you guys have like any code or like any meeting that I can shadow, like let me know. And like when they actually take initiative on that, when I ask them and they're all like, yeah, I do. Like, why don't you join us in this meeting and you can shadow and ask me questions later and stuff. That's something that I really value because they're acknowledging that I do want to grow and they're not just leaving me to like just keep asking or like keep like me showing initiative and them like not responding, but they are. And so that's what's been really helpful. And I appreciate that a lot.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, so I do want to close this off before we start answering any questions that are in the chat, because I know there's a couple things I do want to cover here, but I do want to ask this question because this is one that I do get a lot for incoming students who talk to me as they're interviewing for App Academy. They really want to know like how prepared do you actually feel after App Academy. Like all they know at this point is conversation they had with admissions, which probably to them, sounds just like a marketing thing. They don't really know they haven't talked to any alumni. They don't really know the legitimacy, just what they know online. And at that point, it's like, who wrote that review? I don't know. So they really always ask me, like, how legit do you feel after graduating App Academy? How prepared do you feel coming into the tech realm? So I do want to ask in the open right now, because I'm not sure who has an answer for this, but if any of you guys do have something to say in terms of Isla or Mana, how ready you actually felt after App Academy, you can shine your light on it. If not, I'm more than happy to share my experience.
Yeah, I can go. I feel like I was really actually my company is like a whole different tech stack. We do Golang, so I know nothing about it, but I felt prepared because I felt like I knew the resources, like I knew how to research and I knew like my learning process. Like I knew how to teach myself and I knew how to ask or like I knew what questions to ask to like help me learn better. And so I feel like, and also my take-home assessment was actually a totally different stack as well, or like not a different stack, but like totally like a framework that we never touched in App Academy. And I was able to do it within a week. And I can only credit that to App Academy because we learned like JavaScript and Python in like 2 weeks. And so I can only like credit like being able to ace that take-home project because App Academy taught us how to learn. And it's not just that we learned Python and JavaScript. It's the idea that like we learned how to like optimize our learning, and so.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really important part of it. App Academy doesn't just teach us what's written in the curriculum, right? They do teach you how to actually properly learn, especially with code, because I know for me, I had this conversation with one of my instructors. I was only used to like memorization type of learning. Every learning I've ever done, it was just a matter of memorizing. And this was like, oh, I actually have to use my brain like in ways I've never used it before. So it really is something that I gained in App Academy. Like this is actually how you productively study code. And this is how you productively use resources. So I think that plays a big part in the ability, like, hey, you master these languages here, but hey, now you know how to properly learn. So go fly, learn everything you want out there. So that's a huge factor of it.
I agree with both of you guys. I felt pretty prepared afterwards. Also in terms of like pair programming, because that's a really big part of coding in general and like working in a company. It's not just you coding alone in a room. It's like a kind of dead stereotype really. So even just coming into these interviews, knowing how to pair program, I'm already, 2 steps ahead of a lot of other people that are maybe newer to the field. So I felt like that was really valuable, and just learning how to figure it out. And because we already know these other languages, it will be so much faster to learn these other ones. But just also I've kind of talked to more senior devs, maybe in my friend group and stuff. And so they were really impressed by the stuff that we were learning, that we could do a full stack application within, a few months. And then we know all the key crucial like data structures and algorithms and types of ways of solving these problems. So I do feel like there isn't a lot of fluff, like they just get in there to the key concepts and the key technologies that we need to know for this modern stack. And I really felt prepared well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Isla. So I'm just going through the chat box right now. Kristen, I see you answered Kevin's question about App Academy. So thank you for that. Lucy, you did ask what are some lessons we learned and which share of our journey trying to learn code. So mine was pretty quick and easy. Best advice, I think, is just do it. Just do it. I spent a lot of time being my own blockage. You think you can't do it, and you think you need to master the understanding before you can actually hop in and start your project or start coding. No, just do it. Learn from your errors, your outputs, ask questions. For me, I would always, after lecture, just take a moment and be like, hey, can we actually just take an hour just to go over lecture one more time and whatnot, and just reread this whole thing we just learned today? No, just don't do that. Just go right in, try it out, learn from the errors, ask questions. So that is the most productive way. That's for me. Any advice anyone else would give here in terms of their process and journey learning code?
I guess for me, repetition was a really big thing too. I just had to like keep drilling it in my brain, like repeat, and then you'll just get it. I don't know how to explain it. I just feel like I constantly had to like repeat the problems, especially for like assessments too. Like you just have to keep repeating, and then somehow, like, I know people say it'll click, but it does click. Like something just clicks, and then you just get the flow of it. I feel like, yeah.
I would add on there, one of the things that I did for me, and that I have advised most, if not all, of my students to do, is if the way that I'm presenting it to you, the way that the curriculum is written, if that doesn't make sense, use these skills you're learning into how to go find answers. Find the thing that does make sense. It may be that the way that I said this, your brain is like that. You could have been speaking Greek and I would not understand it. But I found a YouTube video and they explained the same content, but they explained it slightly different. So now I've heard it from you, I've read it in the curriculum, and now I've heard it from another person. And if you get those different voices, you get those different points of view to explain the same content to you, eventually it will start, your brain will start putting it together the way that it works for you, and you'll be able to recall it. And it won't just be rote memorization. It will be, okay, I saw this the way they did it, and then I saw an alternate approach, and then they explained it this way. Oh, that's what it means. And then all of a sudden you understand bubble sort, or all of a sudden you understand something else that's a big piece. And it's okay to go look for other places. It's okay to go look for other points of view, because that's what you're going to encounter when you get into the job. You're going to have multiple people working with you that all learned it a slightly different way. You'll have someone who went to a computer science degree at a big university, and someone who did a boot camp, and someone who taught themselves, and someone who kind of mixed all those together. And so being unafraid to go find more answers is the biggest thing. And again, like I said before, learn when to walk away from the code. There comes a time when you've got to say, I need a break. I'm going to go pet my dog, scream into the void, whatever it is that I need to do. I'm going to give myself a little refresh break and then come back. And then your brain's like, okay, I'm ready to do this now. But that's my biggest pointer right there, is be available in your own head to go find other answers and take breaks.
110% true. That's actually something I learned the hard way. I think it was either you or Javier or someone helped me out of a breakdown I had one day at class. But it definitely is something where you just got to step away. I remember I was freaking out over this one error that I just could not debug, and my instructor literally forced me to just go away. He said, go away. And I came back maybe not even 10 minutes later, and I was like, oh, it's right there. Like, what? So definitely, Kristen, walking away is the key
I
sometimes.
think I told you during one of your assessments one time, walk away, wash your face, come back. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I think I remember this. So yeah, thank you for that. Passed it, so it worked. But yeah, so there is another question here. Zach, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe someone else. No, not Zach, but Steven. I'm not sure I fully understand this question, but maybe someone else can help me understand it. But he asked, what would be the best place to begin a tech career for someone who comes from a low income background? So maybe Stephen, if you can clarify a little bit more in the chat, but if anyone has a better understanding about what this question means, because if I just read it and I was like, wait, I was in a completely low income background coming. I think I had $300 in my account coming to App Academy, closed up my apartment, took a huge risk, moved back with family. So I don't know exactly if that's the way the question is being veered, but any insight, Stephen, you want to give us? But while you do that, I'm going to hop over to the next question. So it says, what helps you be confident if you come from a completely different background? How do you leverage that in the job search? Okay, so confidence, where does that even come from? I think myself told me it comes from the self. But confidence, I feel, at least for me, is being okay no matter the circumstance, specifically like you are coming into a completely different environment, learning environment, field, whatnot. I had almost no tech experience besides my preparation prior to App Academy. So it definitely was a place where I felt intimidated a little bit. You're coming in with people from all sorts of levels of learning. Some people already have their CS degree, but withholding that confidence is being okay with the fact that you don't know. So for me, it was definitely just really focusing on how I'm feeling and searching for, the strength to know that, hey, it's okay, I don't know this, but I feel okay knowing that I'm wanting to learn it. So that's just my take on it. But if anyone else has any confidence keys out there that they would like to share for this question.
Yeah, I would like to say that in order to build confidence, you have to recognize that a champion is a person who lost but doesn't stop trying.
Agreed. Totally agreed with that. All right, so the rest of the questions that are in the chat that we were not able to answer, they will all be answered. Eventually, we could reach out to you guys and answer them. But we are at time. But to close this off, I would like to just go through one more question, just to send everyone off with good blessings here. But anything that you would like to share that's personal to you, or something that you would like to tell anyone in the crowd or who's going to watch this about your journey, or advice that you can give them, but something that you feel like you really have passion about talking about right now, just a quick goodbye message of like, hey, you can do this. But I'll leave the mic open right now if you guys want to say anything last minute just to close this off. The floor is open.
I would just say that it's okay to be different and to have a different background. Use those to propel you forward, and actually that's what will help you be the most creative in the field. So if you liked music, maybe you're going to make a music app, or maybe you'll go to one of the music companies like Spotify or SoundCloud. Or if you're into healthcare, maybe you could go work for a healthcare app. But there's just so many different facets of the industry that you can make a change in. So, learning these skills is hard, but we're doing it for a bigger purpose. And if you really carry that intention forward, the doors will open up for you.
Awesome, beautiful. Thank you so much, Isla.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to piggyback off of that. Like, yeah, like me coming from a teaching or English background, like that kind of helped me get my current job, because that's how I introduced myself to my current manager. And actually, in my current job, we actually do workshops. And so I guess that's kind of thing that kind of made me stand out as well, because I had prior teaching experience. And so that kind of shown me as a more valued candidate. And so don't be afraid that your previous experience, or like that what your previous career was, won't like make you a valuable candidate. Like it will. Like you have skills to give, like you have things to give, and like that just further enriches the company and enriches your job role. Like you can offer so much because you have prior experience to like different workspaces and stuff, and like different careers and stuff. And so don't be afraid. I definitely feel like the first step is the hardest, but like once you go, like you're just gonna bulldoze. Like you just have to keep going, and everything will work out. Like it's definitely worth it.
Thank you so much, Mana. Definitely worth it at the end.
And I would add to that, you are where you are for a reason. You are a culmination of all your life experiences, all of your job experiences, all your viewpoints that you've ever been exposed to. You are the culmination and a whole picture of everything that has come before you. And every bit of that you can take and own and make it beautiful and make it something that will propel you into your choice of career. And if tech is the space, then you can use so many things from your past, from your experiences, from people you've been around. I grew up, my dad was a director of technology for schools, and I learned to type before I could tie my shoes. And I used that love of computers, and I used my love of teaching, and I used all the things I'd been through in my other various jobs. And all those things got to come together and make me the person and the coder and the teacher and the colleague that I am today. And so don't be afraid that anything you've done before doesn't lead you to this point, because it did. It led you to exactly where you are right now, sitting on this call, either having already decided to come to App Academy, or you're still thinking about it, or you've already finished it. You are exactly where you're supposed to be at this moment. And so then you decide, what's my next step? What do I do next? And what's the next step of this journey? And there's, I'm a firm believer is that journeys don't have an end point. They just have different roads you go off on, and you're always going to continue on the journey. And so you just decide, what have I done and where is that taking me? And if that gets to a point where it's no longer good, where's the next little veer off going to be? And so that would be my biggest advice for anything, is just consider that you are where you're supposed to be.
That is really beautiful and well said, Kristen. I definitely, anyone who's here, I believe they're also here for a very reason. Who came in today, maybe they are seeking to find that next step and they're just not quite there yet. They need a little push. So I do really believe that, your past does have all the steps that have brought you here currently. And if you're wondering what your future is going to be like, it's probably what you're doing right now in the present. So it all matters, and it's feeding into that. So that's really great. The only thing I really have to say to close this off to anyone who's here and listening is, if you are interested in making this a career and you're seeking those next steps, but you're just not quite sure yet, reach out to people. I think networking is the biggest motivator there is. I think before I was unsure and wasn't really quite sure if this is the commitment I wanted to make, I spoke to so many people that I found on the internet. I spoke to people who luckily I knew did graduate. So I did have the fortune to be able to talk to alumni myself, to really get their experience of this, and see if this is something that I could do. You can. And I would really highly suggest that you guys seek networking, LinkedIn, find the App Academy alumni and message them. You know, you'd be surprised if someone messaged me in my LinkedIn asking for information and like advice, like, hey, do you think I could do this? Or do you think this career is for me? I would be more than happy to respond to that. So it's like, you'd be really surprised. Manon, you said you got your job through LinkedIn networking, you messaged Red Hat, you talked to the manager. So definitely network. Talk to people, find people. There are communities out there. There are people out there that are there to give you information that you need to be able to move to that next step. So I hope you guys found this very encouraging in several different ways. So I'm going to put a wrap to this. I want to thank all my panelists. You guys were absolutely wonderful today. Thank you so much for joining us and encouraging a lot of people in terms of tech field and more. Honestly, this I feel like this did more than just the tech realm for me. But thank you guys so much. And I just want to let you guys know that Heather did mention that any questions aren't that were asked here, it is saved and will be answered, as well as the recording will also be there. So if you guys want to go back and listen, it will be provided. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Lemma.
Thank you.
It was great meeting you, Janice. Kristen, it was lovely seeing you again. Manat, I wish you the best at Red Hat. And Isla, I'll probably see you tomorrow.
Yep, be there, App Academy.
It
Bye,
was
y'all. Have a great night.
Yes, have a
Thank you,
good
guys.
one.